wild stuff from the Avs, but we got to go back to Kenny Holland and his quarter zip. They needed the depth up front. We heard from a lot of people around the Oilers that they were looking for not one but two forwards. They got them. What do you think a guy like Henrique brings to the table, and even Carrick, who a lot of players seem to love playing with?
Well, I could just simply say, play back the Kenny Holland comments, because
right.
That's exactly what I felt all along. They needed to get deeper in their forward group. They needed to add a little bit of weight. They added some skill and some skating speed. Kenny talked about the penalty killing. I call it what's called lineup flexibility. They can flex through your lineup. You have Adam Henrique. You can load up now Draisaitl and McDavid, depending on what the matchups are. Giving your coach many options come playoff time. When situations change in a game, opponents throw different things at you, that's a real benefit. We know penalty killing is really important, but when you start to think about the playoffs, it's who can go the hardest the longest. Mm-hmm. Bruce Cassidy last year said, we beat the Edmonton Oilers with our third and fourth line. That's what happens now with Henrique. It pushes other players down the lineup.
Right.
They're not scaled up too high. And now what you're able to do is you're able to grind. You're able to sustain through courses of the games. Remember, it's every other night for the playoffs if you want to win. And I think that the Edmonton Oilers, for me, that's the area that I thought that would give them the greatest benefit if they didn't do anything else. And I think that that's a real significant move for the Oilers. They've played 40 games this year where they have been lights out great, defensively, offensively, and everything. So they know they can do that.
Yeah.
I think this makes them a stronger team. We already know they're a strong favorite. This makes them even that much better. Now, the margins are thin, but sometimes it just takes a little bit of improvement in different areas to give yourself that edge.
And according to Holland, he may not be done. He's going to look for a depth defenseman over the next couple of days. As for the Ottawa Senators, they moved Tarasenko. We expected that. So the return is a 2024 fourth rounder, a 2025 third rounder, and Steve Staios is getting some criticism for that. You just talked about he definitely canvassed the league. Are you happy with what he got back in this deal for the Sens?
I mean, there's so many things. What's he getting criticism for? Like, does somebody think that Steve Staios turned down a first-round draft pick
right.
for Vladimir Tarasenko? No, I'm not taking the first-round draft pick. I'm going to take the fourth-round draft pick. Like, really? That's what you think? Like, seriously, give your heads a shake. But you got to keep this in mind. There's a marketplace for a player, and then the player, in this case, Tarasenko, has a no-trade clause.
Yep.
So he has weight in where he goes and where he may want to go. So now Steve Staios knows that. Other teams that have expressed interest, and there may have been teams that express interest, and Vlad says, I'm not going there.
Right.
So now Steve Staios understands what it all is. He's talking to his player. He's talking to other teams. And he goes and says, okay, this is the best place that I can make a deal. And certainly Steve says, okay, it's an unrestricted free agent. We now move forward. We get a couple of draft picks and take it from there. But the idea that, like, oh, we could have done better. Okay, so please tell me how we could have done better with all the people that have no experience doing this job saying that he should have done better.
Let's move on to Colorado's Chris McFarland so we can keep the GM talk going. So he swings big. He had Sean Walker, but the one that really intrigues me is that one-for-one deal. The middle stat, a real good young player. They bring him in. But they ship out a real good young defenseman in Bo Byram. What do you think about the Avs' approach to the deadline?
Chris McFarland and the Colorado Avalanche are in exactly the same boat as Kelly McCrimmon and the Vegas Golden Knights. They're bold. They're not sitting back on their heels. They're going. They did it when they won the Cup. Just go and look at what they did. They traded for Lehkonen. They traded for Josh Manson.
Yep.
They added different pieces. That's what they do. And so now they sit down. They took a chance on Ryan Johansson. They thought that he could come in, a little bit of a change of scenery.
Yep.
Come in, play the second line. It just didn't work out. It didn't work out there. So now the Colorado Avalanche look and go, okay, what can we do? And they sit down and they go, we need a second line center. So they go and hey, listen, you start to hear, what would it take for Casey Middlestat? Well, are you ready to trade Bo and Byram? And that gets you a little bit uneasy. But then you start to look, okay, what do we have that can play that? I mean, they have Taves and McCarr. You know, Josh Manson's there. They have Sam Girard. They have a good group of blue liners. Now you start to say, are we going to be better with Casey Middlestat up the middle, and then understanding that we're giving up a good player? To get, you got to give.
Yeah.
And I think for the Buffalo Sabres, they have a lot of really good young prospects in the forward group. They also have really good Tage Thompson and Dylan Cousins up the middle of the ice. So this is a move that really helps both teams. But I think it goes back to the Buffalo Sabres recognizing where they have a strength and reinforcing on the blue line. But the Colorado Avalanche, do you hear them talk about how hard it is to make a deal?
Yep.
Do you?
But
no, you don't.
No, I was just going to say, I just love the concept of the one-for-one deal. Like, I wish more teams would be this bold. I mean, you're talking about being bold. Like, Byron plays 20 minutes a night. Like, I get what you're saying. They're a deep defensive group, no question about it. But it's still, as you said, you got to give something up. And that's not a future, right? That's not a first-round pick where you're speculating.
No, you're
You already
not.
know what you got.
You're right. And I love Bowen Byram.
Yep.
And I know the Colorado Avalanche love Bowen Byram. But to get, you got to give. That's the game. And so
I'm just surprised more teams don't do that. Right?
Why? I just told you that 24 or 25 of them don't do it. They always tell you how hard it is to do things. And they always bemoan. I said, those 24 or 25 talk the talk. They don't walk the walk.
Let's talk about Jake Guentzel very quickly. Do you see an obvious fit for him now? There's a lot of talk that Vancouver is really still being aggressive, but may just not have the pieces to get him now. And there's even some talk that Vegas still may be in on him.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line is, and I'll say, I'm not going to speculate on where he could go or what Kyle Dubas is asking for. There's all kinds of reports out there. Jake Guentzel is a really good player. So once you get the medical reports that say he's fine and ready to come in and play, you listen to what the price is, and you got to make a determination. To get, you got to give. Like just what we said. So don't be surprised if Colorado's talking to the Pittsburgh Penguins or Vegas is talking to the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're going to be talking. They're going to be exploring opportunities. Jake Guentzel's a difference maker. Jake Guentzel's a top-line player that can be a real difference maker. He's shown it time and time again. He's a winner. He knows how to play in the hard games.
Not very often.
Why wouldn't you be interested in him? But you'll hear teams talk about how hard it is.
And not very often that a player of his caliber is available at this time of year. So, we'll see what happens. Hey, in a way, it's great because we've got Trade Center coming up, Craig. And it's kind of nice that Guentzel hasn't been dealt. As we take a look at the Trade Center promo. It's kind of nice that we haven't been dealt, or that Guentzel hasn't been dealt, right? Because that we've got a guy left for Trade Center.
We have Jake Guentzel and lots of depth defensemen.
Right. So tune into Trade Center this Friday. We've got Jake Guentzel and lots of depth defensemen. It's Canada's #1 trade deadline show, and it's brought to you by Harvey's.